Okay, so earlier today I beat the Order 1886. I almost feel like I need to apologize. I have a sense of real, genuine disconnection from a lot of gamers, and certainly from these reviewers on these professional review sites. More so than I can remember in recent memory with regard to this game, the Order 1886. What I mean by that is, I don't understand why people are trashing this game so much. I know why they say. I've heard all their reasons. I don't get it. Okay? Do I see some of the flaws they point out? Absolutely, and I'm going to talk about that. But I still maintain the hate for this game almost seems, I don't want to sound conspiratorial or anything like that, but it almost seems like this game is almost like a scapegoat in some way. It's almost like some type of groupthink mentality. Like it certainly feels like this is the cool game to hate right now. All right, believe me, guys, I don't want to sound like some cheerleader for the Order 1886. I really don't care that much. All right, everybody can have their opinions. Obviously, I can't change anybody's mind, but it really perplexes me. Okay, let me start with the negative things, all right? Let's get into that first, okay? I do feel that given the game's length, and by the way, it took me, I don't know exactly, I tried to watch the clock a little bit. It took me probably, maybe not quite 8 hours, 7.5 hours. But the only way you could beat this game in 5 hours is if you plow through it. Okay, so just calling this a 5-hour game is disingenuous. It's not. So, given the game's relatively short length, some of the cutscenes are a bit excessive. They do go on for a bit too long for my taste. Now, as long as some other games, perhaps not, but I mean, there are definitely cutscenes that might border on the 15-minute mark. All right, there are definitely some that are, I don't know exactly, but there's definitely some that last 12, 13 minutes, not all of them, but a handful of them. Some people have said this game is mostly cutscenes. No, that's bullshit. There's plenty of gameplay, plenty of interactivity in the game. Some people have said, it's 50% cutscenes. I would say probably about 40. I'd say it's 60% gameplay, 40% cutscenes, if I had to guess. But having said that, the cutscenes are very good. They're superb, actually, and almost always intriguing in that the story, there's really no filler. There's always story going on. There's always a reason for the cutscenes, and particularly, I can think of two long ones in particular that I don't know how else they could have done it. I mean, I guess they could have told more of the story in-game, perhaps. But at the end of the day, in my view, the cutscenes, some of them do go on too long, especially given the game's pretty short length. Another thing is, and you probably heard other people talk about this, is sometimes the game takes away your ability to sprint. Now, never in a combat scenario, but there are times, like not that many, maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the whole game, there was let's say you're walking down a hallway or you're walking in some area and, you've kind of looked at everything, you've kind of taken it in, and you just kind of want to speed things along and get down to the end of that hallway faster, right? So you want to sprint, and nothing happens when you click the stick, because you have to click the left stick to sprint, just like you would in a first-person shooter, and nothing happens. So there are a few spots in the game where they did that, and it almost feels like they're trying to make you look at everything, or trying to slow you down, and maybe that wasn't the intention, but I don't like having the freedom taken away like that. Now, did this happen very often? No, like I said, it's maybe 4 or 5 times throughout the whole game. All right, not a big deal, but a minor gripe I had. Now the ending of the game, the final boss fight, and the ending of the game. Now, some people have said, even Arsenal said this, and I have to disagree. I like Arsenal, but he said that the boss fight, the ending boss fight, is the same as the one from earlier in the game. It's not exactly the same. They're similar. They're set up the same way, but the ending boss fight is not as exactly the same. There's a lot more that happens, a lot of different things that happen within that than the first time you fight an Elder Lycan. So, it's not exactly the same. But was it a bit disappointing? I'm not going to lie. It was. I really felt like, but to be fair, this is not unique to the Order. I mean, Dying Light, another game I really liked, okay? The end boss fight was all QuickTime events, which was kind of disappointing. And people have talked about, apparently Shadow of Mordor is the same thing. And it's been done before. The ending boss fight in Uncharted 1 was a QuickTime event. So yeah, not a huge fan of handling it that way. But does it ruin the game? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, the ending of the game definitely sets itself up, I mean, blatantly for a sequel. There's a lot of, I'm not going to flat out say it's a cliffhanger, but there's a lot of unresolved plot threads, a lot of unresolved character threads, things like that. And I wanted the game to continue so bad. I mean, I was like, oh no, please don't tell me it's over, because it really is that immersive, and that the story is very good. I just didn't want it to end. And then when the credits start rolling, there's actually another cutscene, a brief cutscene that comes after the credits are like half over or something like that. That, really sets up, the sequel or what have you. Maybe it'll be called The Order 1888. So Ready at Dawn clearly has this set up for a franchise that they're going to do more games, maybe in a couple of years, who knows. But I, for one, am very much looking forward to a sequel to this game. Now let's get into the QTEs, all right? The QuickTime events. And I touched upon this in my first impression rant video, where I don't understand why QTEs in some games are completely acceptable. In games like Heavy Rain, in games like the upcoming Until Dawn, which I've heard countless people say they think looks really good. And when it's in a game like that, or even the Telltale games, like Walking Dead and whatnot, it's so different and innovative, and it's a new way of looking at gaming, and it's a cinematic storytelling experience, et cetera, and blah, blah, blah. But when you take that and you combine it and put some of those elements with a third-person shooter, all of a sudden that, or even something like Rise Son of Rome, all of a sudden it becomes dog shit. All of a sudden, QTEs suck. Now, if you're the kind of person that always thinks QTEs suck, fine. You're entitled to your opinion, okay? I am a person who doesn't really mind them all that much. Now, I think there are bad QTEs like Resident Evil 6. Leon's campaign made me want to kill myself. But God of War 3, to me, is an example of QTEs done right. And I'm sorry to say it, guys. I'm sorry. I can't just jump on the hate bandwagon. The QTEs in the Order, in my view, are, for the lack of a better word, elegantly done, I suppose you could say. I know that may sound a little corny, but they are really well implemented, and they never broke the immersion for me at all. If anything, it may have added to it. They're done in a way that are contextual enough, and that, in my view, did not take away from the feeling that I'm playing this. It wasn't on autopilot. You know what I'm saying? So that's my view on it, guys. The QTEs, I don't think they're that bad. I think people are harping on that too much. And another thing, too, it's not every 5 minutes. I've heard people say every 5 minutes is a QuickTime event. It's just riddled with them. No, it's not. There's tons of stretches of gameplay where there's no QuickTime events, okay? A button prompt to pick something up, let's say, that's not a QuickTime event, okay? That is a contextual button press that's in a fuck ton of other games. Because I've actually heard people say this. They're like, oh, well, it's always, look, that's a QuickTime event. No, it's not. It's not, okay? QuickTime events, you know what they are, okay? It's when you press buttons to make things happen, animations and things like that. All right, just picking a fucking item up off the floor is not a goddamn QuickTime event. So yeah, enough about the QuickTime events. The length of the game, I've talked about this before, is it worth $60? Is it not? That's up to the individual. If you guys don't want to spend the money on this game because you think it's too short, it doesn't justify, obviously, I can't force you. Don't do it. But, I'm going to stick with what I said in my first impressions rant video, that the hate for this game, in my view, is incredibly unjustified. If this game got 7s, I wouldn't be angry. If it mostly was getting 7s, but these 6s and 5s and fucking 4s in some cases, 4 out of 10 some of these sites give, I'm just like, I can't help but feel like there's some kind of goddamn conspiracy going on. I know that sounds ridiculous, and I'm not saying I literally believe that, but as I said earlier, it's almost like there's a groupthink scapegoating of this game going on. Another thing Hard 8 pointed out is that this game is polished. Okay, I know apparently there's people have posted YouTube videos with a few minor glitches. I didn't encounter them in my gameplay. I mean, I didn't notice anything. No clipping into walls. The only thing I could possibly say was there may have been the occasional hit detection issue, and I mean occasional. Like maybe 2 times, 3 times I felt like my reticle was right on and it didn't register. And that's about it. That's the worst thing I could say as far as, glitches or bugs or anything like that. It's very polished. And, the graphics, obviously, you guys know this game is stunning. It is the best looking game I have ever seen. There's a part where you're in this India Trading Company warehouse, or in this big mansion museum, and not only is it gorgeous, but it's like photorealistic. And I just found myself just tilting the camera, looking up at the etching and the tiles. The attention to detail in this game is staggering. And that's the last thing I want to talk about, guys, is you know, people love to say, oh, graphics over gameplay, graphics over gameplay. And, you know, I think we get hung up on this word graphics. To me, change out the word graphics to visual presentation. All right, my favorite game of last generation, of the 7th gen, was the original BioShock, okay? I love all the BioShock games, but the first one's my favorite. And now, there's lots of things I love about BioShock. One of them is the story. One of them is the gameplay, the gunplay, the plasmids, all that shit. Oh yeah, it's got all that. But you know what my favorite thing is about BioShock? One word: rapture. Rapture, just the world, the environment, the mood it creates when you're going through it, it's the experience of being in that world. And I'm not going to say the Order's on that level, but this Victorian, I was about to say dystopian, but no, this Victorian steampunk London with the fog and the atmosphere and the sound design too, it's the visual presentation and sound presentation that creates a very strong level of immersion, in my opinion. I mean, really unlike I felt in a while. Dying Light came close too, because that game's got really strong visuals and a really good art design too, especially when you get to the Old Town section in Dying Light. But the point is, I think we make a mistake by making this down the line delineation between graphics, or as I would say, visual presentation, and gameplay. While the two are separate, when you talk about them, I think they are still linked, and visual presentation, graphics, etc. can have an impact on your gameplay experience greatly, I might add. So that's all I'll say about that, guys. And what's my final score? Same as it was in my first impressions. A strong 8 out of 10. Sorry, I can't go lower than that. I can't. I cannot make myself just to feel better, like I'm part of the community more, because it's just cool to give this game shit reviews. I think it is a solid 8 out of 10. It's not a 9. It's certainly not a 10. But it is a solid 8 out of 10. And if you are a person that looked at the gameplay for this game and you were psyched about it and you wanted to play it, but then you saw the reviews from GameSpot, IGN, and all these other sites, and you were dissuaded from buying it because of that, look, all I'll say is this. If you have the money, if the money was not an issue, right, and you don't mind spending the $60, my advice to you is go and get this game. If you want to get it physically, so you know, don't buy it digitally, right? Because you can't resell that. Okay, buy the physical copy so that you can sell it later. Fine, but play the game, all right? And if you want to wait for a price drop, but still play it. Play it when it's $40. Play it when it's $30. It's worth your time. I was damn immersed in this game, and I really enjoyed the gunplay, the story, the characters, and I am very much looking forward to a sequel. So that's my review of The Order 1886, and I plan on doing a couple more reviews. I want to talk about and do a review for Sunset Overdrive, because that's a game over on the Xbox One side that I also really enjoyed. So that's it, guys. Talk to you later.